Okay, so the topic is two-wheel drive freewheels, using freewheels rather. Um, yeah. So here's the constituent parts: an axle, something the axle is attached to, screws into, or has formed on the end that goes into a first freewheel. This is just a standard cassette carrying, this sort, cassette carrying holder with an embedded freewheel. So that allows this axle to turn independently of this guy. Okay. But if this is turned, obviously the whole shebang has to turn. A second freewheel is attached where the outer races, so that's the outer race of this, is welded to a tube which goes into another tube, and the two tubes get welded together, just dab welded in several places, and this larger outer tube is itself welded to the outer race of a second freewheel. And now what that means is you've got something whereby as the rider pedals, it turns both freewheels. You can see the motion there. Let me bring the arrows around. There you go. Independence for the left hand side, independence for the right hand side, but they both go round together, okay, as the rider pedals. As you go around the corner, if one side has to turn faster than the other, it can do either that way, or this one can turn faster while everything else is going slow. So it's just using two freewheels, and instead of it costing several hundreds of pounds, I was looking to try and make this cost in the region of, £40 to £50. But there's some considerations and some work that needs to be done. How accessible and how often do you need to be able to remove, change, upgrade the cassette? Because whatever you do, you've got to be able to put an axle and this element through this centre hole, right, onto this freewheel. Yeah, so that is a consideration, which means that the business end here ends up being about 12mm. This is about, I think it's about 13, 14mm, maybe a bit more. And out here on this side, of course, the connection is via a standard threaded, because this is a screw-on freewheel, it's a standard threaded bottom bracket shell cup. So it's just a threaded cup that the axle has attached to it, and you could put that on, the same sort of grub screwed adapters that you use on your axles, and it just screws into here. You could do the same here with whatever size axle you want, but you've got to get these elements in line quite well, because you don't want the whole thing wobbling off centre all the time. So it's one I made earlier. There's one up there, he said, pointing up there where you can't see. It's actually on a rear axle of a bike in progress, and there's another one that I've made using two freewheels again, with two independent half shafts, etc., etc. But that has an intermediate gear and internal gear hub as an intermediate mid-drive, and just an output chain to two freewheels that are linked and do this same effect. But you guys seem to be weight weenies, so it's thought that this is a better option for you guys, one of these. And how are we going to do that? Well, here's one way of doing it. I only say it's one way of doing it. There may be others, but this is the starter for 10. To see if it whets your appetite. Is there mileage in this? Would you like to have a go at it? Because these parts are cheap. That's £7.50. Those two are bits of tubing, just out of my tubing spare stock bin. This is part from an old hub. It's got the freewheel integral to it, and that's just a bit of scrap steel that I machined down. Now I'm trying to get away from machining because not all Boy Scout groups, not all sort of pedal car sub communities, the little units like the I don't know, oddballs, whatever. I don't know, all the various subsections may not have a lathe in which to turn stuff. So can we make this something that just with basic tools and basic components and parts and a simple bit of welding, someone can end up with a two-wheel drive unit that works just as effectively as something that costs £200 to £400. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Anyway, so I thought I'd put this together as a starter for 10 so people could critique it, consider it, say what they like, what they don't like, what any inhibitions might be to not being able to do it, rather than jumping straight in and spending lots of time and energy on something people don't want. So that's why I put the post up. I hope that's helpful. I'll put this up on YouTube and put a link in my post. Speak to you all soon. Take care now.